I'm from the West Coast. I was born in Idaho, actually, raised in Washington, and moved to California and spent my formative years down there. Went to high school like everybody else, public high school, and happened to have a really good art teacher. I had always drawn throughout my childhood, so I think he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. I was not even the best in my high school, but decided I wanted to continue on. I went to a JC in California, and I had just like the opportunity to study under a really good teacher just by chance, Dana Mason. Met a lot of good people there. I actually met some artists that I still know today, and they're some of the best artists in the world in my opinion. Jeff Soto, Regino Gonzalez. From there, I decided I had to be in New York. I wanted to go to SVA, and I think that was as much a social choice as anything else, but I haven't left since. Went to SVA, graduated, and have been working in illustration, for off and on the past, 19 years. A friend that was a tour manager of Job for a Cowboy, and I had never done any metal art before that. I just ended up on a tour bus with them outside of the Nokia Theater, I think, here in New York. Maybe a year or two later, I don't even know if we really remembered each other, but they got in contact and wanted to do some stuff. That was one way, and then the other was a friend of a friend knew the manager of Trivium, and he liked what I did on that graphic novel and some of the other work that I did, and he was like, why don't you throw your hat in the ring? And so we did a merch piece to begin with, and I don't know, it just kind of grew. One thing led to another, I guess. Dystopia was definitely like the biggest thing I had worked on at that point, and it's just, I think one of the managers had text messaged me, like, check it out, you're on the side of a van. I create artwork on my own, for myself. It tends to be, lately, a lot of work on a graphic novel that I'm working on, and an early graphic novel that I worked on years ago, right after SVA, has been resurrected, so we're like redoing that project right now, which is like a zombie graphic novel, but it's not about zombies, so. We started pretty raw on that, and we concentrated on the theme of Relentless Retribution, which to me kind of says, you're retaliating, but you're also getting hit. It was several concepts down the road like that we finally got this wolf idea, and then it became kind of Wolves, King of the Hill kind of thing, and they needed an adversary. You have a King of the Hill triangle composition. We have what became known as Wolfie at the top of that, in sheep's clothing, and other wolves are near the top of the hill, and we have sheep. They're eons old, adversaries charging up. It's an endless fight for control and power. That one was definitely like the roughest of the three. I think like it had like a rough edge to it in general. The Dream Calls for Blood was like, they knew that they wanted to continue on with the Wolves. This was going to be a sequel, so we already had like, not the concept set, but we definitely had it cast. That one's just a lot more refined. And the scene is Wolfie and the pack are kind of in this almost dreamscape landscape, but it's like as if they had gone to the ends of the earth to finish this war with their adversaries. And now they're in kind of a graveyard of the skulls of the fallen. And I think you even see a few human skulls in that. So that's the first time humanity has kind of like come into the picture. I feel like I'm competing with the last piece every single time I work. I kind of have this mindset that I want every piece to be my best piece. That puts a lot of pressure on myself sometimes, but definitely with this trilogy, it's like, yeah, each one had to be better. I don't know if I was successful in that, but that's definitely the goal. You don't want someone to just get bored looking at these images. So it has to be something new and hopefully get better each time. I want each one to be more like, oh wow, he really evolved doing this process, and the ideas have evolved, and I know that Death Angel's ideas have evolved over time, and hopefully that illustrates it. The scene in Humanicide is like, so this is the end of the trilogy, and we went over a few concepts. It was actually a little while back. We got to one where they're coming at us. They're you know, they were up on a hill one time, they were in Antarctica the other time, growling, and these wolves are running, and they're running at you. We wanted to convey they're continuing. They've kind of won the day, so they're continuing on. But humanity isn't. Humanity screwed itself, and I don't know that there's actually like a real like how it came to pass. I don't know that I know that. I just think that, you know, is it global warming? Is it some like biodisaster, overpopulation? Somehow like humanity screwed itself over. We definitely wanted to put it, give a nod to San Francisco, the Bay Area in general. I've spent a little bit of time there, and I always thought that the Palace of Fine Arts is kind of a cool looking building, like out of time, out of place, even like in a normal setting. So I was talking to Rob, like, how could I get that in? And then we just kind of like kept evolving the ideas. Yeah. And then as they wanted to focus more and more on the Humanicide itself, I think it started, it was just kind of like an overgrown palace, like it just looked like, you know, after the fall kind of thing. But they really wanted to explore like, okay, well, how did it fall? So there's little Easter eggs in there, I guess, to try to describe like how humanity ended up falling and why they were gathered together in the Palace of Fine Arts at the end. Quite a bit. I'm actually fairly politically minded, so global warming and really just the state of the world that we're in right now seems chaotic, and it seems like the end is near. You know, if on your bad days, the end is near. So I get where they're coming from, and I like the theme of a self-inflicted wound. You know, the Earth is going to continue on long after we're gone, long after we've wiped ourselves out. On a scale of 1 to 10, that color palette in particular was a 10, like 10 being the most difficult. And it's something that Rob had mentioned early. He had this idea for purple and green. And that's definitely not something that I've worked in before. Just getting the rendering, these pieces are done actually really, really large. The band could use them as backdrops if they wanted to on stage. So the level of detail is really high. It takes a while to come around on. It's still too close for me. It usually takes me a couple of months to be objective about something that I've done. It usually takes me a couple of weeks before I even look at it again. I have to detach myself from the individual, like, you know, hairs that I was noodling out. So I think I'm right there with the fans and the band. I love Wolfie. I've spent probably more time with Wolfie than anyone else. So like I said, it's hundreds of hours each album cover, and it was such a challenge getting him, because he's first of all, wolves are like hard to render. They're not big dogs. They're actually closer to skinny bears. And it's just like weird when you start to realize that, like, oh, this is actually what a wolf is. It's a wild creature. I think that was kind of my relationship with him, is like figuring out, you know, how to render him, how to bring him to life. And I'd be sad if we didn't do anything else, but this is the end of the trilogy. But I think Wolfie's gonna live. That's good.
I like that.
I think I went think it was. And I didn't name him, by the way. That came from Rob and the guys.